Today, more government dirty tricks in support of the big banks. Hello again, it's Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics, web latest post covering finance and problem news with a distinctively Australian flavour. Well, last week I made a show with Dale Webster from the Regional and Robbie Barwick from the Citizens Party talking about regional banking and how bank branches were being closed all over the place, and it's even nibbling around the outskirts of some of our major cities and towns as well. But Dale Webster has now written a piece which really is very stark given what happened late Friday evening. She said regional Australians found themselves as the butt of a nasty joke at the weekend, with both the new federal government and the opposition treating them like idiots over the critical issue of bank closures. In the ultimate dodgy trick, the final report into the Taskforce into regional banking was snuck out at 4:52 p.m. on Friday evening, before a long weekend, by the Albanese Government, despite the report being a coalition document overseen by two shadow ministers, Michael Sukkar and Perin Davey, whose current portfolios have nothing to do with treasury, finance, business or even regional Australia. As predicted by the Regional, when this task force was set up, the final report contains nothing that will save a single bank, with the executive summary's admission that it received more than 400 submissions on ways of maintaining and improving banking services, illustrating that the entire exercise was, as the Financial Sector Union described it in 2021, just a cruel stunt. The 7 recommendations are an insult to the intelligence of regional Australians, with the report sharing insights on the issue of regional bank closures that read like a play school episode. Banks can do more to communicate and consult with individuals and communities when closing a regional branch. When branches close, alternatives like Bank at Post can assist in maintaining banking services. It's important to maintain access to cash, which is crucial for many in regional Australia, and people experiencing vulnerability face particular challenges and need support in accessing banking services. The rest of the content could be from a chairman's message for any of the major banks' annual reports over the last 20 years. It regurgitates without challenge the claims banks constantly make every time they close a branch, that over-the-counter transactions have declined. Had the Financial Sector Union been given a seat at the table as it requested but was denied, they would have told the MPs that bank staff have been on performance targets to move customers away from teleservices and onto ATMs for years. Reduced opening hours have also impacted on customers' ability to get into the door of their local bank. On the face of it, recommended changes to the Australian Banking Association's branch closure protocol make sense unless you already know the contents of the document and its history. The task force merely repeats what the previous regional banking inquiries, Money Too Far Away in 1999 and Money Matters in the Bush of 2004, put in place, but was largely ignored by the banks due to an if viable caveat being inserted by the Howard government at a later date. By releasing this report, the Albanese Government has only drawn attention to Labor's alternative recommendation 30 from the 2004 inquiry, stating it would be prepared to re-regulate the banking industry if the banks did not implement and meet community service obligations under the protocol. Since then, regional Australia has lost another 1,000 branches, so it could hardly be claimed that the banks have shown any sort of social conscience. Rather than the task force wishy-washy recommendations 1 and 2, there should have been a calling to account for the banks for their complete disregard for the Money Matters in the Bush report. The task force also appears to be unaware, probably due to the lightning speed at which it conducted this inquiry, to score a few points in the run-up to the federal election, that the branch closure protocol is a legally enforceable document. What it also could have recommended is that the document be withdrawn as a proper contract by independent lawyers and taken out of the hands of the banks, who have self-managed the behaviour standards since it was implemented. Recommendation 4, which covers access to cash, gets to the heart of why communities need banks and is another missed opportunity. Like the 2 regional banking inquiries before it, this report suggests beefing up post office banking, falling short of creating a new government bank because the Taskforce, let's again remember that it's made up mainly of banking representatives, held significant competitive neutrality concerns. Just to translate that into plain English, the banks are worried a government bank would be more popular than their own branches and they would lose customers, a concern banks have expressed to banking inquiries on this subject right back to 1985. This section also makes the bold statement that remote indigenous communities alone should have access to fee-free ATMs. What about people in the 587 towns that once had one or more major banks that now have no form of bank at all? And recommendation 7 to review the APRA point of presence data should trigger alarm bells for regional Australians. Phrases such as to better understand and plan the transition away from branches reveals the major banks' true agenda and have been published as a fait accompli by this task force. This recommendation will actually help the government and the Australian Prudential Regulatory Authority out with a little problem that they now have in relation to errors in the authorised deposit-taking points of presence data going back some years. APRA Chairman Wayne Byers was backed into a corner at the last Senate estimates over the misclassification of bank branches in the database, and the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, has also since confirmed that bank sites that do not provide face-to-face cash services do not have a place in the government branch lists. With another 148 branches that do not meet that criteria now identified across both metropolitan and regional APRA branch lists, and even more in the planning stages as banks move away from teleservice, the corrections are going to play havoc with banking service level statistics unless the government follows recommendation 7 and shakes the whole classification system up by introducing new service channels to the database. One of the reasons why the Albanese Government has just released an opposition report in such a shady way may have suddenly become clear. And it's no surprise that this report has missed the mark by a long shot. Unlike the Money Matters in the Bush inquiry of 2004 that held 13 public hearings in 6 states and territories and took 18 months to complete, there were just 54 days between the announcement that the coalition was forming a task force to look at the issue of regional bank closures and the close of public submissions. The task force held just one public forum at Redcliffs in Victoria, which was Mallee for the Nationals, and 2 by invitation meetings at Orange in New South Wales, Clary for the Nationals, and Mildura, which is 14 kilometres from Redcliffs, and also in the Mallee electorate. It was never more than an election stunt. Now, there is currently an open parliamentary petition calling for an immediate moratorium on regional bank closures, the launch of a new inquiry to pick away from Where Money Too Far Away from 1999 and Money Matters in the Bush from 2004 left matters, and to pulp any reports that come from the Coalition's Regional Banking Task Force. The Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, must respond when it's tabled. Regional Australia is down to just 1,011 major banks, a figure the task force was in possession of, or close to it, but chose not to reveal in preference to a much broader and rosier number provided by APRA, possibly due to an undeclared conflict of interest by Senator Davey. A new inquiry would hopefully give regional Australians a fair go at saving their last banks and even, hopefully, getting some new ones. And the petition, EN 4244, closes on Wednesday night, the 6th of October at 12:29 a.m. and the links are below, so if you've not made your views known, now's the chance to do it. This is another example of Parliament and the government lining behind the major banks over and against real people and businesses across Australia. It's shameful. I'm Martin North from Digital Finance Analytics. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.